I'm Raven, and you may be wondering what it is you're looking at. Despite initial observations, it is not my vanity or ego. It is in fact the subject of this video, desynchronization. I've connected 2 USB web cameras to my computer, one more via HDMI. My microphone is connected through a USB audio interface, and I'm recording some footage of Minecraft so you can see me fall off mountains and punch trees. Now, as you can clearly see, we have a big problem. The video and the audio and the gameplay are not in sync, to the point where it is distracting and probably unwatchable for a long period of time. You want everything to happen at the same time. Wouldn't it look a lot better if it looked a bit more like this? There. All of my audio and video sources are in sync across all cameras, devices, and physical spaces. It's important, regardless of whether you're recording a video, or if you're playing a game, playing an instrument, or drawing on a desk, that everything that the viewer can see is in the correct sync. Otherwise it'll be a horribly jarring experience for the watcher. Let me show you how. You may expect to be able to connect all of these devices and have them record things as and when they happen. However, as you have seen, this is not the case. There are many reasons why your input devices are out of sync, some of which are inherent to the device, others less obvious or beyond your control. The first thing to consider is the inherent latency of the device itself. Every device takes a certain amount of time to process and send data to the computer. Some are very fast, others quite slow. For example, the USB cameras I'm using are of 2 different brands and model. Both use the same USB speed and physical connection, but they are not in sync due to their inherent device latency. Even then, 2 identical devices are still unlikely to be perfectly in sync, as there is a limited amount of bandwidth available to the USB devices that share the same hub. Where you have several USB ports in a computer, including the ones directly connected to the motherboard, it is likely that they are grouped together into hubs of 2 to 4 ports. Each of these hubs must split their bandwidth between every device connected to it. If you were to connect your cameras to USB ports on the same hub, you may find that your device latency will be greater, or that one of the cameras may not even function at all. The next big cause of synchronization issues is the difference of source location. Footage recorded in the real world has no point of reference to footage captured from a computer. You can clearly see when I raise my hand or turn my head whether they are in sync on the different cameras. However, it is not as clear whether my gameplay footage is in sync, and there is no immediately obvious point of reference. This affords some leeway with synchronization. However, issues may be noticeable with faster games, or when you appear to react to something before it has happened on screen. Another cause can be high computer load, be that CPU usage, hard drive usage, or other peripherals such as a MIDI keyboard. Even something as simple as being in a different scene in OBS can change the synchronization of your devices, as the devices change active state. Some of the less obvious causes of desync can be the order in which your devices were turned on, the order in which they are plugged into the computer, and the order of the sources in OBS. So, we can see the problem, and we know some of what causes it. How do we now bring our sources into sync, and keep them that way? Let's look at the physical setup first, the parts that shouldn't change on a session-to-session basis. First, ensure that your USB hubs are balanced. Ideally, you want to have as few devices on one hub as possible. Where you need to have multiple devices on one hub, try to pair low-demand devices with one high-demand device. To determine which devices are connected to which hubs, you will either need to refer to your computer's manual or manually check each device. On Windows, you can see which hub your device is connected to using Device Manager. Find the device you want to check, view its properties, and look at the location. If the location information does not specifically say which port and hub it is on, the first number is typically the port and the second number the hub. Next, take note of your devices, which connection type they are, and which port they are plugged into. Whenever you need to disconnect a device, refer to your notes and ensure they are plugged back into the same port every time. Before opening OBS, ensure that all of your devices are connected and turned on. Then, while calibrating your device synchronization, pretend you are doing it for real. Hit record, start streaming, turn on all sources, run a game. Everything you expect to be doing in a live session. With the physical setup complete, we can now look at configuring OBS. Several options and filters exist that allow us to synchronize audio and video sources individually. First, to ensure that your devices stay synchronized during your live session, it is important to keep them all active, even when they are not shown. Right-click your source and make sure the Deactivate when not showing box is unticked. This will keep the source active and ready to go. reducing the chance of any synchronization issues due to devices turning on and off. OBS provides us with two settings for synchronizing audio and video. To synchronize video, you need to apply a render delay filter. Right-click the source in OBS, click Filters, click Add, and select Render Delay. This filter causes the video output to be delayed by a specified number of milliseconds, allowing you to precisely control the amount of delay. Note that the filter is capped at 500 milliseconds. If you have a very serious sync issue, you can extend that cap by adding a second render delay filter. Audio has a similar synchronization method using the sync offset control in the Advanced Audio Properties window. Unlike the render delay filter, there is no cap on the amount of delay. Armed with this knowledge, we can now go through the process of synchronizing the audio and video sources. The crux of synchronization is that you cannot speed up your audio or voice. However, you can delay them to match the slowest source. There are tools and pieces of equipment that you can get to make this process faster and easier. However, I'm going to show you how to do it with whatever you happen to have around. The first step is to record some footage of your sources to find the one with the most delay. Remember to turn on all of your audio and video sources as if you were doing the real thing. While recording, you need to make a sudden and obvious motion and sound, such as snapping your fingers to use as a reference point. If you're recording from a computer, you will also need to make a sudden visible action and sound in the game or program, such as placing a block in Minecraft. Next, review the footage. Pay attention to both the audio and video. When you see and hear the snap of your fingers, you need to pinpoint the source that you see or hear last. This source is the one with the most delay, that you need to bring all of the other sources in line with. Make a note of that source and go back to OBS. You'll now need to, one by one, add a delay to your other sources. This is a simple but time-consuming exercise. Determining how much delay to add to each source can be quite tricky. There is a fine balance between what appears to be in sync and what is just off enough to be distracting. I recommend using a slow color-changing strobe and beep to bring your sources in line. With the strobe visible in your slowest source and the source you want to synchronize, you can watch the OBS preview window for the strobe change. For the audio synchronization, use the beep to synchronize the audio with your cameras. To synchronize audio from the computer or another peripheral, find a reliable way to make sharp noises from it, such as firing a gun in-game or pressing the key on a piano, and use that as a reference. A link to my strobe and beep is available in the description below. Keep tweaking your sources one by one, recording some test footage, reviewing it, and tweaking further until you are happy that all of your audio and video sources are synchronized. The last step is to add your final latency values to your notes about each source, so that you always have them for future reference. Even if you entirely change systems, you may be able to use them as a base reference. And there you have it. Multiple audio and video sources all synced up, regardless of how stupidly complex your setup may be. Now, if you do have a complicated setup, especially ones involving things like an external HDMI or recording card, you're probably going to have to redo your calibration every time you start, because there are just too many variables about how your setup will act and perform. Just run through the checklist every single time, and you'll find that recalibrating shouldn't take you more than a couple of minutes, but make sure you leave enough time to actually do the work before you plan to go live. But that's going to do it for now. I'm Raven, and that's all from the lair.